Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to LearnLinuxTV. Recently, I had a chance to sit down with Jim Jackson, the CEO of CloudLinux, to talk about AlmaLinux, as well as a few tidbits of new information about the direction of the company, including, but not limited to, the fact that they're actually going to be offering support for AlmaLinux for those of you that need it. If you weren't already aware, AlmaLinux is a distribution of Linux that is catered towards the CentOS crowd, and actually it's a drop-in replacement for CentOS, and it's available for free. It's a community project, but they're actually going to be offering support on top of that, and that's something that we talk about in the interview that I'm going to show you here very shortly. And it was a fun chat. I really enjoyed it, and it was recorded over Zoom, so please excuse any of the usual Zoomisms, if that's even a real word. There's a little bit of glitchiness in the audio, but I think it turned out pretty well. I mean, you can't really expect all that much from Zoom anyway, but it was an awesome talk, and I really appreciated the time that he spent sitting down with me to talk about AlmaLinux. So without any further ado, let's get right into that interview. So hi there, welcome to LearnLinuxTV. As everyone that watches my channel knows, I am Jay, and I'm here with Jim Jackson. My understanding is Chief Revenue Officer and President of CloudLinux. Am I correct?
That's correct, Jay.
So you wear two hats, apparently, or maybe multiple, considering you guys just put out a Linux distribution, which, oh my God, like the fact that you guys are able to do that in such short amount of time and the amount of work that went into that to synchronize the whole team. It must have been a crazy, awesome experience.
Right. Yeah, it was, it's been a wild ride since December, to say the least.
Wow. December. It kind of seems like just yesterday we just started talking about this whole thing, and then all of a sudden it's, wow, way back in December. That feels like another time period. But congratulations, first of all, on getting AlmaLinux out the door. And we'll get into the big news in just a moment. But for those in my audience that have been living under a rock and they don't know what AlmaLinux is, what would be your elevator pitch to tell everyone what it is?
Sure. So really you can think of it as a safe refuge from the demise of CentOS. When we saw the news, Igor and I from Red Hat, we jumped on a call right away, decided something had to be done. We felt like we were the right ones to do it, and it was the right thing to do because, we had benefited from open source for years, right? And we have tons of customers that had been running CentOS, and now they were sort of left in a quandary, and we were getting, tons of calls saying, what do we do? And so we, from the start, decided this was going to be our way to give back to the community and also bail a lot of people out that, we'd become close to over the years as our customers. And so it's really designed to be a complete one-to-one binary, forever free, owned by the community, open source replacement for CentOS.
And that's awesome. And I really love the community aspect of this. And I think it's important to emphasize that because in open source, if we want to improve something, suggest something, or we notice something that isn't working quite right, we can look at the code if we know how to do that kind of thing, or we could, just let someone know about this. So not only does this seem to give enterprises the solution when the carpet has been pulled right out from underneath them, but it also gives the community something to take a part in. And I like the fact that it's equally given back to the enterprise side of the world, but it's also giving back to the Linux community and the community in general. And from multiple conversations with individuals on your side, it seems to me like community is like one of the most important things about Alma Linux.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was really the idea from the start is we wanted to make sure that, we knew we had the people, the infrastructure, we already had the bits, the build system, everything in place to turn around pretty quickly. And we did. And really, if you think about the end of year holidays, in less than a month, we had a beta. And then we moved pretty rapidly to stable release after that. But we wanted to make sure that we did the heavy lifting to get it out, but then make sure that it was really then owned and managed going forward by the community. And so at the same time we started the build, we started looking at who potential board members could be that would be neutral, setting up the foundation, the 501c6, so that it was completely set up. And the way I like to talk about it is once it went stable release, once it was a thing that anyone could download and use in their environments, it became really separate from CloudLinux Inc. We'll continue to sponsor it, and we've committed to fund it annually out through 2029 at least. But at that point, Alma Linux was kind of all grown up and out of the house and on its own. And then I started to think more about, what kind of services are enterprises and ISVs and OEMs going to need to be able to use it. And so we're completely separate now in terms of what Alma Linux does, and that organization, all of the maintainers, the volunteers, there's over 100 mirrors up for it now. We see a lot of vendors already making the changes to adopt it so that their products recognize Alma Linux when it spins up. So that's all kind of its own beast now. And now I've turned to, in my role at CloudLinux Inc., thinking about, okay, what do enterprises and vendors and ISVs and OEMs and everybody that wants to adopt this, what are they going to need to be able to do that? And, commercial support services was a big item, which we're happy to be now coming out with.
And that's the big announcement. And my understanding, May of 2021, which it'll be May, 2 or 3 days from now, as of the time of recording this, might even be May 1st, depending on how long it takes me to edit the video. So that's actually a pretty good turnaround. So already my understanding is it's a drop-in replacement for people that are running CentOS right now. And I think that's important to understand too, because my first reaction when that news hit was, there's going to be a lot of IT companies getting all their people in meeting rooms right now when this announcement from Red Hat came out. Oh my God, what do we do? And then you guys are now like, we got a solution. So you put that out the door. And now the next logical question is, we need support now for these servers that we've moved over to Alma Linux. And we need to, be able to call on someone who has expertise in this field if we run into a situation or we need some assistance. So tell us a little bit more about this new offering.
Sure. Yeah. So we really are coming to market with 3 flavors. The base level is what we're calling essential support for Alma Linux, and that's really designed for any organization that wants to move to use Alma Linux, but because of internal policies, compliance, those sorts of things, they need to have commercial support. And as you know, that's fairly common. A lot of enterprises, like to use open source, but they need some assurance that they'll continue to get the updates. They have a lifeline if they have issues, and so commercial support package for those people that need to just check that box is what essential support services for Alma Linux is. So it's pretty straightforward. And that's kind of the base level. Next level up, we're coming out a little later May with premium support. Actually, not only for Alma Linux, but for some other current version distros to be named. And the reason for that is we realize there are also enterprises that need a little extra help, that might need some consulting from time to time. Maybe they need a little stricter SLAs on patch and update delivery timeframes, on time to resolution for incidents, those kinds of things. And so that's kind of the next level up for those sorts of use cases. And then the third level, which is really interesting, which is what's taken a lot of my time these days, is Alma Linux support as a Node OS. And this really meets the needs of ISVs and OEMs, appliance vendors, you name it, anyone that was sort of using CentOS as the core Node OS for their services or products. This allows them to adopt Alma Linux as that new Node OS. And what we're finding is each one of those situations is sort of custom, because it depends on what SLAs those vendors have with their end customers for the service that they're putting out, that they want to base on Alma Linux. All of them have certain packages that are really key to their applications. They have differences in terms of how often they move from stable to release to stable release, because if you're basing a product or service on a core OS, you'll want to define what dot release you want to stay on for how long, and then how many years that needs to be supported going in the future. So we're having a number of those discussions right now with some very large vendors that want to adopt Alma Linux, but need to have all that sorted out before they can actually move. So
that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. But we're in the business. We've been doing support for CloudLinux OS for 11 years now, and we have special case situations with that. We've been doing extended lifecycle support for CentOS 6 since November last year. Now we have customers also on extended lifecycle for Oracle Linux 6, for Ubuntu 16. We're thinking about doing Debian 9 as well as it goes end of life. So we know how to do these things, and we have a team that's able to say, okay, we can freeze you on this version for 6 months until you're ready to adopt the next one, and then we can continue to backport and support that one for years going forward. So it's just a matter of working out the details and then presenting those service level agreements back to the vendors.
In some ways, it's almost like you guys are doing damage control for other companies' downsides. If you think about it,
yeah,
it's like this. Company A makes a big mistake. Yeah, we got you covered. We'll take care of that for you.
It is sort of like that. It's interesting how many of these. We've been on a lot of intro calls with new prospects, that want to adopt it, and the story's the same. It's like, yeah, we've been on CentOS all these years, and we know we have to move off, but it needs to be somewhere safe that we can rely on it for years, and that can provide the kind of support we need. And I always say, you're not alone. I hear that every day, and let's talk. So
yeah. That's got to be easy to sell. I know sales are never easy, don't get me wrong, but you have companies that are just put in a bind and they really need some help, and then it's like, yeah, we got you covered. And on my end, when I was trying out these technologies, I tried out the script that migrates a CentOS machine to Alma Linux, and it worked so well that it was hard to make a video about it, right? Because it's just like, I think it's one or two commands. I think it was just one, if I remember correctly. I throw it in a TMUX session and it just works. And I'm like, well, I gotta have a story around a video here. It's gotta be some drama, but there wasn't. And then I was like, when it was beta, I figured I'm just going to install it on my laptop, which is not a server, just my Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Extreme Gen 1, which is not usually what people install enterprise operating systems on. And it's beta. I'm expecting it to explode. It was perfect. It didn't crash. I didn't have to install drivers. The desktop came up. There was no errors. The branding was complete, because usually when it comes time for beta, you have something like a company logo here on the wallpaper or something before it's finished. And I'm like, okay, this is remarkably stable. And it's almost like it could have caused a conflict of interest that I was talking so well or so highly about it and had nothing bad to say. And believe me, I can complain with the best of them, but that's immediately what struck me, is that it's stable, but that drop-in replacement thing, I just switched a CentOS server over to Alma Linux, and getting back to, enterprises, here they are in a bind. This news came out. They're stressed out. They're probably losing sleep. And oh my God, what do we do? And then, yeah, we got you. We got this new distribution here. Here's a script you can run to convert it over. Do people send you chocolates at this point?
We get a lot of great comments. I love, seeing it out on the Reddit channel and other places where we're active. And it's heartwarming. the core of this company is really keep things simple and do great work and help customers. So yeah, this really allows us to continue that. And we've always been good at having a lot of flexibility in making things work for our customers and the models that they need. We had a call earlier today with a prospect who wants us. They want to adopt Alma Linux as the node OS, and they're monetizing their service that they're going to base it on in a certain way, and so they're asking us to do like active VM per hour kind of pricing. And I said, yeah, we can sort that out. I mean, we want to make it work for you guys, and so we grow with you, and everything's good. So yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. So to put it in perspective, it just works so well for me because I could download Alma Linux right now, and the thing is, you don't even know I put it on a server. I could just spin up 1,000 servers, test a cluster. I could do all kinds of cool stuff with it. And then, pitch it to the boss if I work for an enterprise. Hey, look at this proof of concept I just created, and I didn't have to open up my checkbook to set this up. And yeah, it looks great, but we can't put that into production without a support agreement. Well, actually, we can do a support agreement. And then it's almost like the scenario plays out on its own, because a lot of times when you have a Linux distribution, it starts with the IT admin. Oh, that looks neat. Let me check that out. They install some things on there, and then they put the company's app on there. Oh, it runs well. And then it kind of seems like it plays out in a very natural way from there. And now they get support too.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're right now just handling the inbounds, and I'm actually taking a lot of the first ones personally, just because I want to truly understand with Igor what the requirements are, the use cases. We think we have it pretty well laid out, in our kind of base packages, but we always want to listen and hear, what are your pain points? What do you really need? What do you care about? And so we'll tweak things as we hear all those stories and move forward. And then, at some point we'll have that perfected, and then we can kind of offer up as a general service availability and, engage the rest of the team. But yeah, it's been interesting the first, I guess really the first 24 hours after announcement, and looking at the kind of companies that are coming in, what they need, and yeah, making sure that we can tailor the services to fit.
And you guys have quite a few services that companies would benefit from. The extended lifecycle support, kernel care. I mean, speaking for myself, I hate rebooting. And before I even knew you guys existed, right? I don't even want to reboot my laptop. And I keep asking myself, why in 2020, now 2021, are we still rebooting computers and servers after updating? It just kind of seems like we're stuck in the 90s, and then, oh yeah, you don't have to do that anymore. And then later on, it's like, yeah, but what about the shared libraries? Oh yeah, now we have something for that too, which is great. So the other products that you guys have, obviously extended lifecycle support is separate because that's for other distributions. You maintain your own support for this one. How does something like kernel care fit into this? Like if someone wants to use Alma Linux on their servers, I'm assuming since you guys compiled the kernel for Alma Linux, it's probably pretty easy to get kernel care working for it too.
Yeah. Kernel care actually is already supporting Alma Linux, and so, but it's beyond, as you said, just beyond just the kernel. And we're actually about 2 weeks away from announcing a real brand expansion. We're calling it TuxCare, and it's really all of the enterprise services that we do that are live patching, extended lifecycle support, and current version standard support services, for Alma Linux and other things. And the reason we needed to do that is, kernel care has been out 6 years now. And when we saw that, it wasn't just the kernel, people were struggling, large enterprises especially were struggling with knowing how to deal with patching like glibc and OpenSSL, because you can do a yum update and get a new version of the library, but unless you bounce the services using it, which there are many for those libraries, you're still running old vulnerable libraries in memory, which is a problem. And we saw a lot of scanners didn't pick that up. So So based on a lot of customer demand, we said, yeah, let's go down the path, and we delivered live patching for those libraries. And we called that KernelCare Plus. And then we started adding a lot of integrations. And then we heard, QEMU is a problem as well, because if you have a CV that affects QEMU, you have to restart that, which means you restart all the VMs it's managing. And so that's another problematic piece that we're delivering here in Q2, just shortly. And then, open source databases, MySQL, Maria, Postgres, another problem. If you have CVs there, it can take an hour or more to restart those databases. So we'll have database care, which is live patching for those databases in Q3. And so as we kept expanding this, I couldn't keep calling things like KernelCare Plus and KernelCare Plus Plus and extended. So we decided we need to build a bigger tent here and put all these new live patching services under it with their own names.
So KernelCare Plus, KernelCare Sharp.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We're way beyond the kernel, so it was time for us to expand. Yeah.
That totally makes sense. And a lot of the times when I'm working with companies, I understand their mindset, and yet I don't. But from my standpoint, being more on the IT operations side, it's like I'll tell a company, there's this critical vulnerability that, people are taking advantage of right now. We need to get you patched. Yeah, maybe we can get this done in 2 months. I think things will slow down when we get this new release out there. No, we need to do it now. You can't wait for this. And then a week later, yeah, we've been hacked. Yeah, I know. But now and from you guys, it's like, yeah, it's fine. Just don't reboot, because we'll just live patch everything and keep everything going. And now I'm hearing database, which it's kind of funny, because that's something that I was looking into for my own servers just yesterday, because that's always a sore point, because you have a central database server, and yeah, you can set up a database cluster, which can get expensive, but to keep something moving in place is even better. It's just one less thing I'll have to worry about. So there's some great things.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned, at the rebooting, it was like, when I first joined the company, that was kind of the mantra. It's like, yeah, use KernelCare. You don't have to reboot. You don't have to go through these cycles, be up late at night, all those things. But then really over the last year and a half or so, it's been more about companies trying to pass compliance audits. And typically like SOC 2, sort of the typical rule of thumb is if you haven't patched a known vulnerability within 30 days, you're not gonna pass. You're out of compliance. And so when you're dealing with organizations that have tens of thousands of servers, they just can't do that every time a new CVE comes in. And so they found themselves waiting until the next cycle, which could be only quarterly, some were only twice a year. And now you have a real problem. So more than just admins that were sick of rebooting coming to us, we had compliance officers and security people coming and saying, hey, this is a problem. And so we give them the ability to not have to wait, essentially. Typically what you'll see with our live patching services is, because we're on all these non-disclosure lists, we see CVs when they first are discovered, and our team goes to work on it right away. And so typically, in many cases, you'll see us come out and deliver our patches on the same day the thing goes public. And so I like to say, about the time you're reading about this new CVE that has some exotic name, we've already delivered your patches. So nothing to worry about.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And the importance can't be understated. Security, is just the gift that keeps on giving, right? It's just, you got to keep on it, and you can't slow down because no one else will. And there's always something new, some crazy thing those guys are up to from one minute to the next. That could be a stressful thing, but you guys seem to be handling that very well. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we just have a great team. And it's a real testament to our dev team how quickly they were able to turn around AlmaLinux, how quickly we patch new CVEs. They're just amazing, really. Big reason I came here. So
let's just say I have an Alma Linux server right now, and it's beta. Not Alma Linux, but just my server. And I'm like, okay, it's done. It's production ready now. And I need a support agreement on that in order to make the boss happy. What's the process like for getting an agreement in place for a server like that to make sure it's in compliance with, regulations to have an agreement?
Yeah. Right now we're taking kind of early access on. There's a form on the website you complete on the landing page, and then that comes, and we look at the requirements, and you kind of pick. Are you going to need extra help, or is it just basic? You're going to need check the box kind of. I have some assurance I'm going to get patches and updates in a timely manner. That I have 24 incident support, that kind of thing. And then it's a simple, very simple standard template we have. Complete that, start the subscription, and you're covered. You're enabled in the system, and you get the updates from our repos. We put things out there as they come, so it's not like a Patch Tuesday thing. We pride ourselves in getting things out there as quickly as possible. Along with complete errata on everything. So it's pretty painless to sign up for it. Later in May, when we have everything enabled, it'll be completely automated. You can go online, create your account, choose what level you want, subscribe to it, and you're done.
So what do you think the overall timeline, if you guesstimate, for this new service to be rolled out is going to look like from May onward?
So the essential support for Alma Linux will hopefully be there by mid-May. The complete service readiness and people subscribed and everything live by like May 10th to 15th. The premium support's going to be a little bit later. We have a few things to sort out there. And then Alma Linux support services for Node OS use case is probably, every one of those cases is kind of unique. So I think we'll actually go live with some of those services, and probably we have one that really wants to move quickly. So probably June, most of them more like July.
That'd be interesting to watch that grow and flourish into its own offering. I think that's so cool. And it's such a logical step. You give everyone the distribution. It's owned by the community at this point. You guys are the steward of it. You've willed it into existence. You maintain it. You support it. And then the community is, it has to be kind of one of those things like, just to give you an idea, I wrote a book recently, and publishing it was the, happiest moment of that time period, but also the most nervous, because now I'm putting it out there, and now people are going to eat it up, and they're going to, tell me what they love, what they don't. So that had to have been like obviously an interesting experience. But you were saying that the feedback is, seems to be pretty good so far on everything.
Yeah, the feedback has been really good early on, and that's something that we really, it's part of the culture of the company. So every week I have a document. It's kind of a living document. We add a tab to it every week, and it's called Voice of the Customer. And during the week, all of my team, anybody in the company collects anything we hear that's significant, right? Good and bad. And we put it in that document, and during our leadership team status call every week, that's out there and everybody reviews it. And so everyone from top to bottom of the company sees what the customers are seeing. They see who said it, what company they're from, what products it affects, and so it's the way that we kind of take all the info that all of us hear and put it in one place so that everybody understands, this isn't working well, that's working great, we need more of that, we're missing this, and so it's a great way to keep, the drumbeat of what the market needs, living inside of the company.
That's pretty clever. I think I actually might want to use that for my YouTube channel, because, you could use that same logic, what's working, what's not working, what do people like, what do they not like, and kind of keep that going. But that's great that you're keeping track of all that information, good and bad, and understanding, how you're jiving with the community. I think that's really, and that goes back to the community focus of it overall, because you're keeping tabs on what the community wants and what they expect. Obviously, if they're asking for it to make their coffee for them, that's probably out of scope. But within reason, of course, probably some really good feedback there. So I'm hearing lots of great things. So at this point, I would ask, it's pretty much open floor. What are some things that you would want the Learn Linux TV audience to know about anything?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, yeah, I want to say thank you for the support you've given us. And I mean, we really appreciate it. And, you know, we're not a huge company, right? I mean, it's interesting. We're a little over 200 people now. We've been around for a while, but we're really hitting the stage where we're just like growing like crazy. But I still get on a lot of calls with, large enterprises, government agencies, universities, you name it, that want to adopt our stuff. But they say, we've never heard of CloudLinux before we found this thing. And, so can you give us, some references to talk to or something that gives us some warm fuzzy because we've never heard of you, and I always lay out, it's like, well, here's the kind of people that, organizations that are using us. We're SOC 2 Type 2 compliant. We have FedRAMP. We have this, we have that. We have, thousands and thousands of customers, hundreds of thousands of installations of the products. And so we still have to go through that. And so what I'd like, for the listeners to understand is yeah, we're a solid company. We've been around. We have great engineering talent. Our heads and hearts are in the right place. And so, give us a try. I haven't seen an onboarding form that we haven't passed yet, from some of the largest companies in the world and Fed government agencies and universities and everyone. Just give us a shot, and we'll deliver.
So I would also tell my audience to just to underscore what you're saying, download it, throw it on a VM. Yep. If you have a server in your closet, throw it on that server. If you have a company VM stack and you have permission to create a VM, then throw it on that VM and give it a try and submit some feedback in the open source, mentality. And maybe, and I think this is what I'll do, I'll just put the download link for it in the description when this video is uploaded so people can go right to it and download it. And I'll throw up a message board section on community.learnlinux.tv, which is the official forums for this channel. So, there's going to be a place to discuss it there in addition to wherever else, anyone would discuss this. I think it makes sense. Let's just get some conversations going. People should download it, try it out. And in the comment section below this video, obviously let me know what you think of everything here. And, of course, you can read those comments as soon as the video comes out. But be careful. YouTube comments, they're a special variety, to put it lightly. You got to go in there with thick skin sometimes. But that's, that's how it goes.
No worries.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Are there any websites or places you'd like to send the viewers to at this time?
AlmaLinux.org has pretty much everything you need to know about it. I mean, we have the Reddit channel out there as well. CloudLinux.com, soon to be, I'm kind of getting out ahead of our PR, but it'll be TuxCare.com when it's live around May 10th. Then you can go there for the commercial offerings. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay.
So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. That was a fun chat. And check out Alma Linux if you haven't already done so. It's a pretty neat distribution. It's great for enterprise servers, but I actually loaded it on one of my laptops and it even worked on that. So you can install it on whatever you want to install Linux on. Definitely check it out. I highly recommend it. And click that like button if you haven't already done so, because that lets YouTube know that you want to see more content just like this. I have some more content coming very soon, so make sure you have already subscribed to this channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.